You are listening to Rouge Radio, a proud member of the Canadian Football Podcast Network.
It's time to get the point as Rouge Radio is ready to kick off.
Ready!
The best football talk with the best in the business.
So what is the cost? You have 2 first-round picks this year because the Argos are dumb enough to trade for Drew Willie.
A few rookies.
We go directly to the on-field product. We welcome to the show the 20th overall pick in this past Sunday's CFL draft, DeAndre Wright of the Alouettes. DeAndre, welcome to the show.
Thank you, guys. Thank you for having me.
And the occasional Hall of Famer.
Please welcome Doug Brown, who is one of the members of the current class of 2016 in the CFL Hall of Fame. Doug, thanks for joining us today.
Oh, thank you guys for the kind words and for having me on the program.
Rouge Radio is on the air. Here's your hosts, Robert Dalton and Tony Allen.
We are back. It is episode 451 of the Rouge Radio podcast, powered by the Canadian Football Podcast Network. And a lot of you are wondering, episode 451, what happened with 450? We recorded it, and we thought the audio or the video version of just us waiting for Kevin Glenn, it was better suited to put on YouTube. So it is there. If you ever wanted just to watch it, it is up on our YouTube page. And we felt, the audio version is just not that great. It's the Rouge Radio podcast. So again, it said powered by the Canadian Football Podcast Network. My name, if you're watching this live on YouTube or on Twitter, my name is Robert Dalton. You can see the Twitter handle at Rouge Dalts, and my friend Tony Allen at Tony Rouge. Tony, you're in Regina. Let's see how this Wi-Fi, the internet, is good. Is it better this time around?
I don't know. I'm doing an Airbnb this time. Some of the youths at my work I into trying Airbnb, so we'll see how the internet goes in one of these things. So,
well, I got to tell you, it's good this time around. Last time, I think it was like a 5-second conversation that we were like, "Oh, great, this is how it's going to go." But
yeah.
So, you took your Canadian Football Podcast meet and greet tour to a Walmart. It's
yeah. It's like one of those things where it's like, I know 2 people in Regina. I know 2 people in Regina and 1 person in Pence, which is just outside of Regina. So that's a little more specific. I won't say 3 people from Regina, 1 from Pent, 2 from Regina. But wouldn't you know, I'm in a Walmart my first day in town, getting some groceries, and I see this guy with long hair. I'm like, geez, why do I feel like I know that guy? Like, I shouldn't know him, but I'm like, I think I know that guy. And I was with one of the guys I'm rooming with here. I'm like, I think I know that guy. And they're like, how could you know that guy? I'm not right. I can't know him. I know 2 people in Regina, and 1's a girl, so it's not her. But I'm like, I think that's that Staff. The guy goes by called Steve Stefanik or whatever his last name is.
Stefanik, yeah.
So I'm like, no, there's no, what's the odds if Regina? And he's at the Walmart I go to. There's like 3 Walmarts, and there's like, so I just have him like linger around him, and I'm like, I even messaged him on Facebook. I'm like, are you in Walmart? And then he didn't answer. So finally I'm like, because he'd be like, turn around, because I think I'm right here. So anyways, I just said, screw it, I gotta go ask him. So I walk him like, Steve, is that you? He's like, Tony? I'm like, what the hell? Like, you're just in a Walmart, the same Walmart I am. I'm like, you and someone I went to SAIT with 20 years ago live in Regina, and then Dave out in Pence. But either way, small world. So now I think I've met 2/3 of the Piffles podcast now.
Yeah. No, well, I mean, you need Greg and Alex. Which,
yeah. So half of the Piffles podcast now.
Well, you met Ferlin, but Ferlin's no longer on that group. I guess okay. If you're really looking for batting 1,000 with them, I met them when they were in Winnipeg for CFL week about 4 years ago. Great guys. If you guys can handle some rider talk, and I'm talking to the listeners, if you guys can handle some rider talk, go ahead and listen to the Piffles podcast. Well worth. They're not homers, but they're obviously a little bit heavy on the rider pride. Not that there's anything wrong with that.
No,
I'm not going to go that way. So you're back in Regina. That's pretty good. All
I'm
right.
That's done for our 451st show. 451 consecutive shows without Kevin Glenn on it. We've got a good streak. That is Iron Man streak.
If you're curious about Kevin Glenn, so it's last minute, and I shouldn't say last minute. They had some personal issues. And we're in the midst of rescheduling, and I think at this rate, episode 460 maybe would be a good bet. But if you tuned in for that, I do apologize, but we do have a great show planned this week. Obviously, we are broadcast. This is new to us. We are live on a Wednesday night. I cannot believe that we're broadcasting live on a Wednesday. That just seems it seems wrong. Obviously, we're full with the. I don't think a lot of the depth charts have been released yet, but we do have live betting lines available for this weekend, week 14. It just dawned on me that a lot of teams have 5 games left in the year.
I know, right? That's
well, if you're Winnipeg, you have 5, and you've only had 1 bye. Every other team has like 6 or 7 games left. Like BC or Toronto have had all their buys already.
Either way,
probably just
our third week past Labor Day now. Like we're in the home stretch now.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, can we talk about how the myth of games before Labor Day don't matter?
Yeah.
Because if you're the Saskatchewan Roughriders and the BC Lions, like, okay, this is more primarily for the BC Lions because Saskatchewan, at least their offense is kind of moving in the right direction. But if you're the BC Lions, you went out to an 8-1 start. You lost Nathan Rourke, and chances of you continuing at that pace are slim to none. Aren't you glad that you won those 8 games? Yeah. Because if you lose out, you go 8-10, that's good enough for a crossover spot.
Yeah.
Like you're legit almost like mathematically clinching a playoff spot. Although you still have to be ahead of the third place team, which now they're going to have to beat up on each other in the last couple of games. But that's
it almost amplifies what Nathan Rourke's MOP candidacy would have been like. Like, look at this BC Lions team without Nathan Rourke. Like, that's just unbelievable.
And I think it's a popular conclusion that Zach Collaros is probably going to be the odds-on favorite for MOP.
Easily.
Remember a couple of weeks ago, I said, now that Nathan Rourke's gone, I said I'd like to see him average 300 yards per game and a 3-to-1 touchdown interception ratio. He's got the 3-to-1 touchdown interception ratio, but he's about 265 per game. That's his. So he's there. I just like to see more. And chances are that we're like, I don't know if we're going to actually see that go up because as the weather gets colder, the more prevalent the running game is going to be. So it sucks because of that. Nathan Rourke is the fact he's only. I think we had like what was it? Ricky Ray had played 9 games one year, and everybody was like, "Yeah, he should win MOP." And I think you were like, "No." I think we would be willing to make an exception for Nathan Rourke. Like that was a godlike pace.
Yeah.
Let's get to the top listeners of the Rouge Radio podcast as we get to the drum solo. These are the listeners. These are the top countries. We've got your Canada, United States, Mexico, Germany, Australia, Switzerland, United Kingdom, India, Bermuda, and Guadalupe. Top cities: Winnipeg, Calgary, Edmonton, Vancouver, St. Albert, Quebec City, Toronto, Victoria, Regina. Thank you for giving us that hit there, Tony, because I don't think anybody from Regina listens to a Bomber podcast. And Burnaby, BC. Thank you to those who listen to this podcast all across the world and all across this great country of ours. We have to talk about this. Usually, we go through and see what's trending in the CFL. Not a lot is really trending. I mean, there are some things, but we have to talk about it. That Garrett Marino released by the Saskatchewan Roughriders.
Yeah,
and And I think that the straw that broke the camel's back would have been that hit against Zach Collaros in the Labor Day, and which sucks in itself because the hit itself was tame, and I think we talked about this last week.
Yeah,
the hit itself was tame compared. Like, I'm not even considering that to be ranking in the top 5, top 10 of dirty things Garrett Marino has done this year, much less his career.
Yeah.
But it was very opportunistic.
Yeah.
He knew what he was doing, and he should have been flagged for it. But you reap what you sow. People people are going to analyze it to death because of what you've done in this league, in this history.
No, and
anybody else has done it, and we're not talking about it because it's Garrett Marino. It's you reap what you sow.
Yeah, and exactly. You know what? There's going to be Riders fans that defend it because there's those that believe that that's what loyalty is, defending poor actions, and usually the big interaction is a Tiger Cat fan condemning Marino, and then a Riders fan condemning Simone Lawrence, and back and forth. And and even if you look at you mentioned it, the straw that essentially broke the back was the non-hit, but the obvious aggressive maneuver. And I was even thinking about it today too. And, people like, this isn't the worst thing Marino's ever done, or it's not like he actually hit him. I was like, but the problem is when you talk like someone with Garrett Marino, and when your defense is, well, this time he didn't try and hurt someone.
Mm-hmm.
Really? That's a hell of a shitty defense. If your defense is, well, you can't blame him because this time he didn't intentionally try and hurt someone. No, but he does. That's the point. So it's like, even if you can't disregard what happened, because that is a horrible defense that, well, you can't do that because this time he didn't intentionally try and hit somebody. But no, the fact that you have to distinguish between the times he does and doesn't is proof that this guy should not be in the Canadian Football League. And I don't care what anyone thinks about banning him from signing another contract or not honoring it. It's absolutely the right thing to do. We got to send a message to these guys that and again, I believe I've gotten on this soapbox several times. We've got to get rid of this. He's a bag of trash, but I'd love him on my team, because I'd love him on my team is the only thing that these guys hear when you say that. They don't hear he's a dirty player, he's a reckless player, he's going to end someone's career, but I'd love to have him on my team.
And I'm curious why it took that long, because it's not like we're talking about a guy that as an all-star caliber player. No. Like, I'll give him credit. He's a good player. Like, he's a phenomenal player. But the excuse of, well, we weren't going to release him because someone up north and that wears all black and wears sunglasses is going to sign him up. It's like, no, if he does, is that going to make Edmonton better? No. And that is not he's a good player, but he's not a player that actually makes another team better. Him being out, that lack of a distraction in Saskatchewan should actually make them better. Yeah, like addition by subtraction. That's like one of the things. I had a DM. Someone asked me, it's like, are you going to talk about Garrett Marino on this podcast? Like, yeah. He says in the SpongeBob meme, he says, but what about Simone?
Yeah.
Like, exactly. He said it in jest. So, but I mean, yeah, it's funny. It's like how it's funny. It's like you get some people, and like I said, this is not all Rider fans, because the majority of Rider fans want him gone and they're glad. It's good riddance for him. But they're the Rider fans that are still sticking up for him are like, listen, now that he's gone, can we move on? Can we stop talking about Garrett Marino? Okay, we'll stop talking about him. But what about Simone then 3 years ago? And then, of course, 7 years ago when this happened, it was like, no, listen, you just negated your argument.
And I think we've already acknowledged that Simone Lawrence is also someone that needs to leave the Canadian Football League, but that's not an argument. Instead, pointing out what Simone Lawrence is doesn't change the fact that this guy is still a bag of crap. Like it doesn't change that. Just because someone points out Garrett Marino saying, well, what about Simone Lawrence? I don't care. One, we're not talking about Simone Lawrence, and it doesn't make this guy any less trash. Kyrie Bear was another guy like that.
Yeah.
We can point out other bad guys, but you're still trash. You're This guy's still trash. And the fact that your team keeps him and defends him is horrible, period. But now Saskatchewan got rid of him. It was too late, but they did it. So we can all move on.
Hopefully this will be the last time that this podcast, either through Twitter, through audio or video form, that we no longer talk about Garrett Marino. So Ixnay on the Marino, or the Arino May, if that's proper pick line. Tony, you're a dad. Yep. You're working with multiple male I want to say construction, but electricians on site.
Yep.
I'm going to ask you. Obviously, the electricians probably hasn't happened yet, but what would be worse? A group of guys that you're close with, you're working with, all of a sudden just snap of the finger, start crapping themselves or throwing up. Either that or changing a dirty diaper that's going all the way up the back of a baby's back. And I asked this, and people are like, "What the world? What?" Yeah, the Saskatchewan Roughriders going into the Banjo Bowl had a I don't know what happened. Some kind of virus that went around their locker room. 15 players were affected. 3 of them were, at the very least, 3 that I know of, weren't able to play. So Cody Fajardo went from going in the locker room with guys who just couldn't hold it in on both ends, and as of today is the proud father of one Luca Fajardo. So first off, congratulations to Laura and Cody Fajardo. It does not get easier here, because you're going from a group of 300-pound guys who couldn't stop crapping themselves to a little 10-pound baby who's never going to stop crapping themselves for at least a good year. So you're a father. What's worse? What's the potential of those 10 guys that you're working with, or a young'un that's nonstop? Because I remember, like, my kid, my oldest, never had that issue. But it's funny, my youngest, when she was younger, you could hear the noise, and you just look at it, and it's like all of a sudden this white onesie just like just got bigger. The stain got bigger. It's like, I don't think I've thrown away clothes as fast as I could. When I was so.
And the worst part is I've kind of been right in the middle of the road with that, where I had 3 kids. My youngest was still a baby, and all 5 of us got the same virus. It was like something out of a zombie movie. We're just laying, like, everyone was just, again, everyone was throwing up. Myself, my wife, the 3 kids, the baby. It was one of the most traumatic things. Basically, we just had towels all over the floor in case someone throws up. My daughter is terrified of getting sick, so she won't tell you. She has that attitude, like, if I don't tell you I'm going to throw up, I won't throw up. So then she'll just stand there, all of a sudden, blah, it comes out. It was the most traumatic thing that ever happened, because now, if one of my kids throws up for whatever reason, I just immediately feel like I'm going to get sick too. Like, if to be in Fajardo's situation in that locker room, if guys were getting sick everywhere, I feel like I've already lived that with my kids. And it's just like, even the thought of one of my kids getting a virus, just anxiety attack, because I never want to go that where all 5 of us had the same stomach flu.
Have you ever, like, you played hockey back, or you played sports back when you were young? Have you been able to push through? Because I like, for myself on a personal matter, it's like, and I know that I'm talking about this as if I'm a pro athlete. It's not even close. But I remember when I was 10, twice actually it happened. But when I was 10, I was super sick, and getting up early, like 7:00, because that's what community club hockey, started at 7:00 on the weekends. I had the game of my life. Like, literally, like 5 hours before that, I was throwing up everything. I couldn't keep anything down. So, and I got on the ice, scored 2 goals, probably the most goals I scored in a game that year. 4 years later after that, the same thing happened again. And I remember that it was Grey Cup Sunday because I remember having a severe headache, and I remember scoring that game too. But it's just amazing how if you push yourself, that's just going to be that it's just, I can't imagine, because when you're a football player, like as athletes, you're told to conserve your energy, but when you're a kid, you don't even try that. So I can't imagine with the Riders defense or even any of the Riders offense, like you're probably like pushing through. It's like, okay, no, I'm getting over it. And then as the game progresses, you're like, oh, I probably should have conserved. And I'm like, just not feeling that. And you could see it. Like Winnipeg clearly dominated that game in the first half, and Saskatchewan managed to keep it respectable. But you could tell that the virus kind of got to them in the latter stages of that game. Let's go. As you can see on the bottom of the ticker, it is our podcast affiliated with Sports Interaction. As you can go to our specific site at sia.com/rouge. You can use that site directly to place your bets, place your deposits. Again, the first deposit for the month of September, you'll be matched up to 100%, up to $500. But normally it is a good up to $150. It's $150, right? Or it's 100. Yeah, I can never keep that in my mind. But for the month of September, it doesn't matter. It's for up to a cap of $500. Again, that's sia.com/rouge. Let's go. There's 3 games this week in week 14, and it starts in Saskatchewan on Friday in New Mosaic Stadium. Okay, I'm not going to say New Mosaic Stadium because it's not new anymore. Saskatchewan favored by 7 points. The over-under set at 50. The injury reports coming out right now, as far as Edmonton goes, Taylor Cornelius is going to be the starting quarterback, fresh off a 2-year contract extension. Trey Ford has practiced. Dion Lacey has practiced. Same with, I want to say Niles Morgan is coming along fine. As far as Saskatchewan, it is very questionable. And a lot of people being termed out. Dan Clark, Cody Fajardo is obviously, we know that he's going to be back by Friday. I'm assuming all the baby's health is all good. Duke Williams still out. Dan Clark is still out. Nothing really coming off the wire, but I like the way the offense has been moving the ball. Tony, you're betting on it. 7 points Saskatchewan's favored. Will you be taking that bet?
I think it would be tough not to, or it might even be tough to, because again, even Cornelius is probably feeling very good, very confident, and they need a big bounce back after getting destroyed by the Stampeders. I'm going to admit I did not see that coming. If you're a Stamps fan, as a Stamps fan, what a delightful surprise that was. But not, just make sure I'm thinking of the right game here too. Make sure these are my same notes. But yeah, it was that was fantastic. And the Elks need a big bounce back. And exhausted Cody Fajardo from being a new dad. I don't know if that's something sports bettors are going to want to look at if his wife's going to let him sleep on the couch or at a hotel or something. Just new babies have a tendency to keep you awake at night. And just funny side story, because we're talking about the condition Fajardo might be in. I remember my wife, she's not a night person or doesn't like to wake up from a sleep at all. And there's one time she was up with the baby in the middle of the night, my youngest, and whatever, she said something, I said something wrong, and she literally whipped a pillow at my face, like literally just whipped it with all the force and all the hate she could muster. So assuming Fajardo's wife is a little bit more forgiving than my one, I love my wife. I'm not trying to embarrass her. But either way, like you said, Saskatchewan's trending. Offensively, I would trust them a little bit more than I trust the Edmonton Elks right now. But again, there's still nothing impressive enough about the Saskatchewan Roughriders for me to just want to roll out and say, yeah, they could easily cover the spread on this one. It is just a touchdown, a converted touchdown. But again, I don't have a ton of confidence in Saskatchewan as a whole, but it's one of those games that it could easily get out of control as far as turnovers, pick sixes, maybe just broken coverages on defense. I personally, I'd take the Riders to cover that 7 points, and I'm taking the over on that one too. I went through the scores. Edmonton, despite the losses, still can manage to put up close to 20 points a game. So for me, the Riders just have to pick up that extra 5 points somewhere on the field. I think they can. So I don't think that 50 is out of reach to go over for the Riders, but I am taking them to cover.
I'm with you with the covering. I think Saskatchewan will cover. I'm going to be on the under. I think the offense is going to be heavy on the run, but maybe not as successful as they would like to be. I think they want to prioritize the run to take a little bit of the what lack of energy that Cody's going to be experiencing. Because I tell you, it's it's definitely worse on the mom. Right, I tell you, like the mom is not going to have sleep for a few days before they can actually think about going on a schedule. But the dad is, it's handling everything else. And I tell you, if you have a loving wife like I did, my wife actually told me, it's like, get some sleep because because I have to stay up to feed the baby. You don't really need it, so get some sleep right now. So I mean how much sleep Cody gets between now and then is probably going to see is likely going to be the difference in this game. So I am going to take the under on that one. And it's funny you mentioned stories right there. And I remember my wife told me to bring a camcorder because we didn't have a chance to film my oldest birth. So you say, okay. So we set the camera. So it's like the double whammy here. We set the camera on a table right towards where my wife was. And it's exactly what that's what she wanted to. She wanted me to.
Good
so that was her thing. But here's the thing. So I'm holding her hand while she's giving birth, not knowing what happened throughout the whole thing. So as we're watching it, because we could tell when the birth is going to happen, so we're watching a couple days, the nurse walks right into the view. So we could just see the head of the baby coming out, and boom, it's the rest of it. Not only that, I'm dedicated to watching football. We had the 2016 season opener, Toronto versus Hamilton, that game. We had Chris Cuthbert doing the play-by-play, and all you could hear as we could hear as my wife's pissed off and she sees that the baby's going, that the nurse is in the way, and all you can hear in the background, Chris Cuthbert, what a play by Chad Owens. My wife looks at me. Are you kidding me? That is what we're going to remember for years to come. Yeah. All right, so we've got both Edmonton, Saskatchewan covering the spread. You've got the over. I've got the under. Let's go move on to there's a doubleheader on Saturday. The first one starts early in the afternoon. The Winnipeg Blue Bombers go into Hamilton for the first time since the 108th Grey Cup. Winnipeg favored by 7.5 points. The over-under set at 46.5. I'm going to like that under, depending on where Hamilton is with their quarterbacks, because right now Dane Evans is practicing, but not listed as a starter yet. So what's going to happen is that he fully practiced all week, but he did last week too, which is his shoulder injury, which is too much. Alden Darby's practicing. Chris Van Zyl is not. He didn't practice. Julian Hauser also didn't practice. Same with Cariel Brooks. So there is some holes on the Hamilton defensive side. On the Winnipeg side, Nick Taylor, Drew Wolatarski did not practice, but the Bombers welcome back their all-star center, Michael Couture, as well as safety Brandon Alexander for the second straight week. Both of those are practicing. Depth charts aren't available yet, but I imagine they'll be available soon. But those are welcome additions to a roster that has been hit with injuries throughout the last couple of weeks. Still without Greg Ellingson. I imagine heavy on the Nick Dembski, heavy on the Greg McCrae, and heavy on the Dalton Schoen. With that being said, I don't like having multiple game in and game out, 2 games in a row where you're having these injuries and you're putting up high points, even against a team like the Hamilton Tiger Cats. I think Winnipeg wins this one, and I'm willing to say that Winnipeg covers the spread, but the under is not going to be the under. It's going to be under. Hamilton coming off the bye, they're hopefully getting healthy, and again, I'll probably waver once I get the depth charts out in a couple of days. But I like Winnipeg to cover the spread. But at the very least, if you're thinking that this is going to be a high scoring game like it was again in the Banjo Bowl, I think different. It's going to be the under. What do you think with this one?
Yeah, Wolodarski would be a bit of a hit and might make me flinch on something in regards to the Bombers, but overall, the Bombers have everything to play for in this game. A Bombers win, if I got it right, a Bombers win combined with a Calgary loss against the Lions puts Winnipeg in the postseason. So
they're already in the postseason. It would actually guarantee a home playoff game. Yeah,
home playoff game. That's what it was.
Mm-hmm.
So I could see them going full out, lock into that home playoff game. There's a lot of line on here for the Bombers, and the Tiger Cats aren't a good football team. Based on the Tiger Cats alone, I don't know if someone has some inside information that I don't, but even 46.5 is what you're setting your over and under at. I mean, I would almost take the Bombers to do that on their own. You know, like, because the Tiger Cats aren't good, and I don't know what you could be factoring in. I don't know if these numbers are coming off of this fantasy we have that Dane Evans is still a good quarterback, or that Hamilton is somehow the best of the worst of the East, because they are not. And I don't know if the people making these lines are still a little swayed at what we believe the Tiger Cats can be. But the Tiger Cats aren't a player in the East right now. Even if they snuck in to the postseason, they are not a threat in my book to take the East. So for me, this is not the one where you're going to take the money online on it to try and make some cash, because I think this is your guarantee. When you're playing the numbers, this is the one you're going to take. Bombers to cover. Go for the over on this one, because I think this is, even in Hamilton, which hasn't helped the Tiger Cats a lot, I think this one eventually ends up as another massacre as Winnipeg sees that home field advantage in their sights.
Hamilton is 3-3 at home.
Yeah,
which is impressive, because for some odd reason, a lot of the other teams have a better road record than they do at home. Winnipeg's road record 7-0.
Yeah,
like I'd like to see when the last time a team went undefeated on the road. Oh man, that is the second. And then they got, obviously, and then we're getting too far ahead of ourselves here, because that last road game, I think it happens in week 18. But I digress. Let's go to the second half of the doubleheader, last game of the week. You touched on it with the Calgary Stampeders hosting the BC Lions. Vernon Adams is going to be he is starting this game. Thank God, because Pipkin was just absolutely horrible. Kamar Jordan, I believe, has been placed on the 6-game injured reserve. Aaron Crawford did not practice, so that's out. Not a big player, but someone who handles long snapping duties. Brandon Dozier's practicing. The only one that really kind of, Kamar Jordan's actually listed as questionable, but I did read somewhere that he was put on the 6-game injured reserve. The only one that I actually see is Brendan Dozier. He did practice every practice this week. However, he is having a lingering injury. With it, what's going to happen with him? And Diedrich Mills fully practiced, but he likely is going to be a healthy scratch for the BC Lions. It's just not too, they're not getting completely healthy, but they've got some issues there. Delvin Breaux did not practice. He's got an injury to TJ Lee, obviously, is one of them. Michael O'Connor, limited in practice. The big difference to me is Vernon Adams Jr.
Mm-hmm.
This is his chance to show that, hey, I am worth a first-round pick that you gave Montreal.
Mm-hmm.
Calgary is favored by 7 points. The over and under is set at 52. I'm going to take Calgary to cover. This goes against my better judgment, saying that Calgary or Vernon Adams is going to stabilize that position. I think he will. I just think going into McMahon, which up until this year was a hard place to win, is this going to be hard to do? Because I expect Calgary's defense to be a little bit more stingy, or maybe not, maybe a little bit more loose. Maybe Vernon Adams throws a couple touchdowns in the first half to open things up. And then we have like a Winnipeg Calgary type game where it's just nonstop. I'm actually going to go Calgary covers with the over on this one. I just think that it's going to be high profile, high octane offense, and defense will be optional. I think that BC's defense, when they don't have a big lead to start the game with Nathan Rourke, they got exposed against Montreal. And I think this is going to come to fruition again, which is why I'm going against the over. Tony, what do you think in this one?
Yeah, here's the one. If you're looking for your long shot bets this week, obviously you're going to make your most money off the money line with the Lions sitting at 3. You can cash huge bank on this one. I'm not going to tell you to go out and take the dogs on this one because it is iffy. I'm just saying if you do like to play that long shot, if you think if of these 3 games, if you want to roll the dice on the dogs, I would prefer the line out of these 3 between the Elks, the Tiger Cats, and the Lions. If you're playing the money line to try and make some big bucks that way with your 2 favorites, the Lions might be the one I would take this week. Now, I'm not guaranteeing the upset win. You've got Vernon Adams now with another week, a little more knowledgeable on the playbook. And I just remember that comeback win in in Calgary against Montreal. And Vernon Adams just had an absolutely fantastic game in Calgary. He is not afraid to play in McMahon. Also, Calgary's defense still has holes that aren't filling in as nicely as I thought they were about mid-season. I said the defense was trending up, but it seems to more have plateaued than to fill in all of the problems. I don't think that means Calgary gives up a ton of points, but there's definitely a lot of bend in that Calgary defense as well. Jake Mayer, he's a slow progression. This isn't a Bo Levi Mitchell. This isn't a Jason Mazzoli. This isn't a guy that comes in and is at the top of his game already. We're still seeing slowly build up. I think he's going to get there. I think he's got his ceiling is high. I think he's going to get there, but the development is going to come. He's going to have a lot of up and down weeks. Right now, if you want that long shot, I'm saying this is the one you might want to look at. I wouldn't take BC to cover the spread on top of the win. I wouldn't take BC and the points, but it might be something if you just want to bet the money line this week and cash in on there with your favorites. I think this one gives me the vibe that this is where we're going to make it. And I would be betting the under on this one as well. Because again, with Vernon Adams coming in 2 weeks in, but that isn't perfecting that offense. That could be sloppy. Jake Mayer, he's had to have, what the hell is that kicker? Why can't I remember? Either way, the field goals have had to be relied on.
Yeah.
How can I forget the name like the best kickers in Stampeder history? Because you know what's
weird?
Paradise. But you know what's weird? I want to say Sandro DeAngelis. Why? Why do I want to say that?
There's her ceremonious name drop.
I know, right? I don't know why I do that. Why Paredes goes blank and I want to say DeAngelis. Either way, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
We've seen a lot of Paredes this season because that finish just isn't there. So I think your safe bet is what the line is telling you to do. Calgary as the favorites. I'm just saying, if you're feeling gutsy, that's it. I'm not telling you it's like if you're feeling gutsy, this is when you play your dogs for a BC Lion win. But chances are it is in my brain is telling me it's a Calgary Stampeders win, not to cover the full 7 points. I feel it's going to be tight. But if you want a dog on your ticket this week, I'm looking at the BC Lions.
All right. So do we cover or do we recap everything here? Because I did. So we both have Saskatchewan to cover.
Yep.
We both have the. Wait, I forget what I.
You took the.
Said we both had.
Right.
I took the under.
Cover.
I took the under. Yeah.
Yeah.
We both have Winnipeg to cover, but I have the under, but you have the over.
Yeah.
And I have Calgary to cover and the over. You have BC to cover and the under with that.
There you go. So we did not help you at all. We're all over the place.
But I tell you what, now that we're actually doing well, I tell you what, now that we have games in hand, we can actually record these and then, staticize these. I know I made up a word there. Mm-hmm. But where we can so next week when we go like, okay, well, Dalts was 2-1 against the spread. We'll give you a good idea. Or maybe Tony was 3-0 against the spread and 3-0 with the over-under. So it gives you a good idea who's got the hot hand with picking up these winners. Before we wrap it up, because that'll wrap it up for episode 451, I got to say, the 2022 offseason is going to be fire. Because we've got teams looking for new coaches and new quarterbacks. I'm going to get your thoughts on this one here.
Mm-hmm.
We go west to east and figure out what if they're going to be looking. I think Nathan Rourke, if he's back, has saved Rick Campbell. So I don't think we're looking for a new quarterback there or a new head coach. And Vernon Adams, now you traded him. You're likely going to get. I think he's a free agent next year. I could be wrong. But you're probably working on re-signing him if Nathan Rourke goes to the NFL.
Mm.
Edmonton, 2-year contract with Taylor Cornelius. Likely they don't need a new quarterback, although they probably should. Mm-hmm. And they're definitely not looking for a new head coach. Calgary, it's either Jake Mayer or Bo Levi Mitchell, but they're not looking for a new head coach.
Yeah. And Bo Levi Mitchell and Jake Mayer are not both Stampeders next year. If shines, they will not both be in Calgary next year. One will be, the other one will be on the move. And in CFL fashion, you got to take the younger and the cheaper. So there's a lot of non-Stampeder fans who are really rooting for Jake Mayer because then suddenly Bo Levi Mitchell becomes available.
And moving on, Saskatchewan. Listen, after this year, I don't know how you can go on to 2023 with Craig Dickinson as your head coach.
No,
much less with Cody Fajardo. These two are that organization is probably, depending how this season. I think even depending on how this season ends, I think they're going to move on. It's going to be a whole new coaching staff next year.
Yeah.
Winnipeg, Mike O'Shea likely not going anywhere, no matter how this season ends. But I want to touch on something here. Mm-hmm. What if Winnipeg three-peats?
Yeah.
Zach Collaros retire. He's getting up there.
Yeah.
He's getting up there. And I mean, if at this rate, back-to-back MOP seasons, back-to-back Grey Cup, back-to-back Grey Cup champions.
And let's be if Bombers go three-peat, Collaros is likely the Grey Cup MOP again.
Yeah. But he might retire. You just never know. And then you go to the East where everything Montreal, obviously Montreal looking for a new head coach because it's not going to be Danny Mac. And if they go with Trevor Harris, they're already effed for that year anyway.
Yeah. I think the only quarterback locked in the East right now is Mazzoli in Ottawa.
And I don't even think that's a lock. I honestly don't. I honestly think
I think that's a comfortable fit right there, but we'll see what happens. And honestly, Toronto loves Homer McLeod Thompson, so I don't even know what to do there.
But I mean, the more we talk about Toronto, the more that I'm probably convinced that system is going to remain the same, even though I think that it shouldn't be.
Here's the only thing. I don't know if you remember in Bo Levi Mitchell's free agency year, the team running up the price on Mitchell against the Stampeders was the Toronto Argonauts. And
$900,000.
And tell me that's not a match made in heaven for the CFL. Bo Levi Mitchell in Toronto, a guy that's a big personality in the Big Smoke. Like I think it's a perfect fit for me. So I wouldn't mind Jake Mayer getting it together and Bo Levi Mitchell in Toronto. I think that would be a great match for the Toronto Argonauts.
Yeah,
and for the
Hamilton. Oh yeah, and with and last but not least, Hamilton.
They need to just blow it all up. I think Hamilton needs to stop trying to buy their way back to the top and just blow it up. Just try again.
So do you keep Orlando Steinauer?
No. I'm cleaning house. Any veteran can go. Dane Evans can go. Steinauer can go. Just forever. Since I can remember over the last 15, 16, 17 years, Hamilton has just tried to buy their way to the front of the line, and it doesn't work. It's not working. You don't have a Grey Cup since 1999. You're not cheating the system. Winnipeg didn't cheat the system. Well, they cheated a little bit. They bought a lot of free agents in their day, but overall,
it's funny. It's funny how you mentioned that. It's because the moment that they stopped, they built within that. Like what was it? 2015, they went heavy into free agency. They got Darvin Adams out of that, and then they I can't remember, but they got a whole slew of free agents, but none of them stuck past that year. 2016, they went high. They went Justin Medlock, Andrew Harris, Ryan Smith, Weston Dressler, Keith Shulligan, Euclid Cummings. I mentioned Andrew Harris. A lot of those some of them stayed past the 2016 season. And then after that, it was kind of like they didn't really dive into free agency. Like 2017, it was Drake Nevis and Dan Lefevre. 2018, it was Chandler Fenner and Nick Dembski. 2019, it was Willie Jefferson and Winston Rose. 2021, I don't even know I can't remember if they had Bryant Mitchell, but he retired because we weren't really too sure if the season was going to happen that year. Yeah. And then 2022, Greg Ellenson, because they lost they've been building this team. Like it hasn't been all free. If you're wanting to look at how an organization is done and want to be successful, first, Calgary had that blueprint for decades. Yeah. And then Winnipeg is, I don't want to come off as kind of rubbing it in, but I think Winnipeg has kind of copied that and kind of perfected it. I mean, they've got the championships to back it up, and they're front runners to be the first three-peat Grey Cup champions since the 80s, since Edmonton did it. So,
and then people think because it's a 9-team league, you can just instantly buy your way back to the top. Look at when Edmonton tried to do it, the whole Trevor Harris thing. They tried to go out, buy everything, got nothing. BC tried it for a couple of years, go out and sign everyone, nothing. Ottawa tried it this offseason.
Oh yeah, Ottawa, yeah,
nothing. So
exactly,
tear it down, start over, start looking for quarterbacks, start scouting quarterbacks, up and comers.
Trade deadline is in a couple of weeks. I say start trading people over the age of 28.
Exactly.
Moni Lawrence.
It's futile to try and salvage this season for the Tiger Cats. Concede, pack it in, come back better in 2023.
Yeah, because in the CFL you can rebuild in a year, but you just have to rebuild properly.
Yeah,
you just it's not
on that. That's deep. Just that line. You can but rebuild popular, fade to black.
on that note, let's end this show, episode 451. Again, powered by the Canadian Football Podcast Network. You can follow us on Twitter at Rouge Radio. You can follow myself at Rouge Dalts, Tony at Tony Rouge. Send us emails at thenewrouge@gmail.com. And of course, like us on Facebook. Subscribe to us at facebook.com/Rouge Radio. And of course, we do have a lot of content through our YouTube page. For Tony, I'm Dalts. Thanks for listening. And we will definitely see you and talk to you next week.
Thanks for listening. Find more great shows like this at CF Pod Network on Twitter.